Candlelit Castle, a medieval sleep story far across green valleys where rivers wound lazily through meadows and hills rolled like the backs of slumbering giants. There rose a castle of stone. It was not a fortress of thunderous war, but a place of quiet endurance. Its towers stood patiently against the sky, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, yet steady as the stars that watched over them. The walls were built from pale limestone, smooth in some places, rough in others, carrying the marks of countless hands that had shaped and stacked each block. At sunrise, the stone glowed golden, and at dusk, it drank in the silver of the moon. The castle belonged to the land as much as the hills and the forests did. It was said the first builders had chosen the site because of the river that curled like a silver ribbon nearby, feeding fields and filling wells. Over the centuries, the river carried whispers of all who lived there, children who played on its banks, farmers who guided oxen through its shallows, and washerwomen who beat linens on its stones, humming softly to themselves as the water lapped and sparkled in the sun. The village spread outward from the castle gates, its cottages gathered close like friends around a fire. Their thatched roofs were dark with age, yet each chimney carried its own thin thread of smoke, rising gently into the evening air. Chickens clucked in pens, dogs dozed in doorways, and wooden shutters closed slowly as the day gave way to night. Lanterns flickered by the paths, their glow warm and steady, guiding the last wanderers home. The villagers lived simple lives, bound to the rhythm of the seasons, yet they carried with them a deep sense of belonging, as though the turning of the year itself whispered reassurance. Within the castle walls, the great hall was the heart of it all. Vast wooden beams stretched high above, blackened by centuries of smoke, and tapestries hung on every wall. The tapestries told stories older than memory: hunts in golden forests, kings on horseback, ladies with flowing gowns, and dragons woven in threads of crimson and green. In the light of the hearth, those woven figures almost seemed to stir, as if their tales lived on, retold in silence. At the center of the hall stood long tables of oak, polished smooth by generations of feasts. Candles in iron sconces cast a soft, golden haze, their flames swaying with every breath of air. The great hearth yawned at the far end, forever darkened with soot, its fire always ready to be kindled. In winter, logs crackled and filled the hall with the scent of pine resin, the air warm and glowing. In summer, the hearth lay quiet, though its memory lingered, the ghost of warmth that comforted even in silence. Each morning began with the toll of the chapel bell, a slow and solemn sound that rolled across fields and echoed in the hills. The villagers rose with it, lighting their hearths and greeting the dawn with yawns and gentle voices. Within the castle, servants moved softly through the corridors. They carried wooden buckets filled with cold water from the well, their footsteps muffled by the rushes scattered across the floor. In the kitchens, fires were lit anew. Loaves of bread, round and heavy, were slid into stone ovens, while herbs, sage, thyme, rosemary, were sprinkled into simmering pots of broth. The kitchen was alive with warmth and fragrance, a comfort that wrapped around all who entered. The lady of the castle often walked the corridors at dawn, her gown brushing the floor, her voice low and kind as she greeted those who worked. She loved the library most of all, where parchment manuscripts lined the shelves, bound in leather and tied with faded cords. The air there smelled of beeswax and ink, and the quiet was broken only by the turning of pages. The books held wisdom chronicles of kings and queens, prayers in Latin, herbal remedies gathered by monks, poems written in flowing script. Sometimes she would sit by the tall window, sunlight spilling across her lap, her eyes moving gently over the letters, as if she were reading not only words, but the very heartbeat of the past. The lord of the castle was a man of measured calm, more steward than conqueror. He walked the walls often, not in restless watch for enemies, but in appreciation of the fields that stretched beyond. He knew every farm, every pasture, every family who lived under his care. His duties were not glamorous, but essential, settling disputes, ensuring food stores were full, and seeing that the village thrived. His presence brought reassurance, a quiet strength that mirrored the stone beneath his feet. Knights trained in the yard, but their swords clashed more often in practice than in war. Wooden weapons struck with dull thuds, and shields rang with muted echoes. Armor, though sturdy, was not always gleaming. Dents and scratches spoke of years of use. Yet after training, the knights would sit in the shade, laughing softly, wiping sweat from their brows, and speaking of matters simpler than glory: the harvest, the weather, or the song sung by a minstrel in the village tavern. Beyond the walls, the countryside stretched in endless peace. Meadows rippled like seas of green, dotted with daisies and poppies. Shepherds tended flocks, their dogs weaving nimbly among the sheep, guiding them with whistles and calls. Farmers bent over their fields, their hands steady as they planted seed or reaped grain. In the orchards, apples ripened slowly, their skins turning red and gold under the autumn sun. And always, the abbey bell rang across the land, its tolling steady, marking the passage of hours like the breathing of the earth itself. At night, the castle became a world of candlelight and shadow. Torches flickered in corridors, their flames painting the stone with golden light. The great hall glowed warmly when feasts were held. Minstrels strummed lutes and sang soft ballads, their melodies weaving through the air like threads of silk. Servants moved quietly with platters of roasted meats, honey cakes, and spiced wine, though even in feasting, the mood was gentle rather than raucous. Conversations rose and fell like the tide, and laughter mingled with the low hum of music. When the feasts ended and the last candle burned low, the castle sighed into silence. The night wrapped its arms around stone walls. The wind whispered through arrow slits, carrying the scent of fields and forests. Owls hooted from the trees, their voices solemn and calm. The river flowed steadily, its waters silver beneath the moon. And in their chambers, people drifted into dreams of hunts in the forest, of harvests in the fields, of stars that watched eternally overhead. the castle endured. Each stone remembered. Each tapestry held stories. Each candle flame mirrored the stars. Time moved slowly there, not in haste but in harmony, carrying with it the lessons of patience, rhythm, and rest. And so, in the hush of the medieval night, one could close their eyes, breathe deeply, and let the world slip away into dreams, as steady and endless as the flow of the river itself.